Happy Sunday! I am not going to make very many of these kind of videos. In fact, I'm probably hardly going to make any at all. But because I identify here as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka a Mormon, I feel like it's kind of good to address some of these things, especially because if you are at all familiar with the church, or if you are a member yourself, you know that we've been asked by our prophet, President Nelson, to not use the term Mormon in referring to ourselves, but to use the full name of the church if possible. And here I'm going to do both, because historically and for a really long time, we have been known, like 200 years plus, as the Mormons. And also because we are widely known because of a book that we claim, which is called the Book of Mormon. So hence the moniker. Also, our beloved previous prophet, President Hinckley, Gordon B. Hinckley, said, "Dare to be a Mormon." And there was a whole Mormon campaign. And the church spent a lot of money saying, there is nothing wrong with Mormon. That is who we are. We are the Mormons. And even bought the domain mormon.org as the church's website, which has now been changed. So don't come at me and say that I must not follow the prophet if I say Mormon, because President Hinckley was also a prophet and said that it's totally fine to say that. And at the time, President Nelson was already saying, like, we need to say the full name of the church. So not something that they really agreed on a whole lot. And I'll let you come to your own conclusions about that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with using a name that is more widely recognizable, because that's who we are. So at least we're, anyway. Again, draw your own conclusions, but I'm going to say Mormon. So I am a Mormon. And also, that means, yes, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, I just want to say, I think it's wonderful to use the full name where possible. I think it's awesome for people to know that, hey, we're Christians and Jesus Christ is in the name of our church, and this church is based and founded on him. So I think that's great. But I don't think it's bad to say Mormon. So anyway, moving on from that, one of the main things that I wanted to come on here and talk about, mainly I just wanted to kind of like clarify a little bit for those of you that might be confused, because, you know, I did say Mormon, but then I'm also saying that I'm active in the church, and like, how can that be? Because I've come across several things, especially over the last few years, that a lot of you have probably encountered, and I can guarantee I've probably seen as much, if not more, than most of you have. And yet here I am, still active and in the church, still have a testimony, still believe. And so I thought it might be helpful to address some of those things, which I'm going to do here. But again, this is not the subject matter that I'm going to mostly have on this channel. Like I said, I'm hardly going to talk about it at all. This may be my only video. I don't know, but don't come asking me to make more of these kinds of videos or anything like that, because I'm really not interested in that. I'm a single mom of 3 kids. I drive Uber Eats. I do carnivore. I'm living in an unfinished basement while we like finish it ourselves. Those are the kinds of things that I am going to be talking about. I enjoy making those videos. So that's what we're going to be doing. Lots of day in the life vlog kind of videos. So this is not going to become a religious channel. I just wanted to like put this video out there to kind of explain some of my beliefs, and also because I can empathize with a lot of you that have maybe encountered some of these same things I'm going to be talking about, and maybe don't know what to make of them. And a lot of you sadly have lost your faith over it and have walked away from a church that you don't feel like you can in good conscience align with. And I have to say that I understand that, and I have a lot of compassion for you if you've been through that journey. So item number one. There are people that call themselves polygamy deniers, but if we're really going to be technical, we should call them Joseph Smith polygamy deniers, because they're not denying that polygamy happened. Polygamy, like, there's this thing called evidence, okay? And polygamy definitely happened, and on a large scale in the beginning of the history of our church. So we're not disputing that. Polygamy is a thing, and it happened a lot, actually. And I'm actually a descendant of polygamists, several, particularly a really famous one named Brigham Young. So that happened, okay? No one's gonna like dispute that or argue that, at least not the people that I'm following and listening to and the stuff that I'm gonna be talking about. So polygamy happened, yes, but there is a belief going around, or a idea, whatever you want to call it, that Joseph Smith never actually practiced polygamy, that he's not the one that started polygamy, and that yes, he married multiple women, that he was sealed to them. In our temple, you can be sealed for eternity to your spouse, to your children. And it was a very new doctrine at the time. People didn't really understand it fully. So he was sealed to several people. I've heard that he was even sealed to men too. It was maybe a little bit confusing when it was first implemented. But anyway, back to this belief that's being circulated, he did not sleep with any of these wives. And I'm actually in that camp. I do not believe that Joseph Smith slept with his multiple wives. Now, why is that important? One, because one of the allegations is that if he married these women to have children, that's a lot, one of the main reasons that we're told polygamy is, is only acceptable if it's to like grow the population. That would mean that he had to sleep with all these women, and one of them was very, very young. The church is a little more careful about that. They say that she was a few months shy of her 15th birthday, but let's just say that she was 14 because that's what that means. That's extremely young to be marrying a, 37 or however old man, prophet, whoever. I have a really hard time accepting that. So I'm actually a lot happier now that I have come across a lot of information that shows that this is not actually true. Yes, he did marry her. No, he did not sleep with her. There is no evidence. So remember that word? We talked about how there's a lot of evidence of polygamy, but there is not any evidence yet. And if you find it, bring it to me and this discussion will be over. If you have like actual, real, solid evidence. But there are no children, no biological children from Joseph Smith other than his wife, Emma Smith. No proof other than hearsay. Definitely there's some of that, but actual proof that he actually consummated those marriages. So if you have it, bring it to me. I will definitely take a look. But from everything that I have seen, it does not seem to be the case. Joseph Smith actually actively spoke out against polygamy. He is the one that translated the Book of Mormon, which we have now, which speaks out against polygamy. It just wouldn't make sense for him to just turn around and be like, oh, actually, it's an exception and like I can have a lot of wives and it's okay, but like it's bad for all of you. That just doesn't fit with his character, doesn't fit with the narrative that I believe, which is that he was a prophet called of God. Now, that brings me to point number 2. If Joseph Smith did not start polygamy and did not actually practice it himself and was faithful and loyal to his wife, Emma Smith, who did? Who started it? Where did it? Had to start somewhere. There's an origin, and somebody is going to take the fall for that. So was it Brigham Young? I haven't come to any conclusions on that yet. It kind of sounds to me like it was maybe a group effort and a few people, and that's another whole thing. Like I said, this isn't going to be my channel. This isn't going to be a series of videos or anything like that. So I'm going to let you go to your own research on that. From what I can tell, there was some interaction at the beginning of the church with some people in America that were already practicing polygamy, like not associated with our church at all. And it was not that long after that polygamy began to be introduced to the church. So maybe there was some influence from these people that, who knows, maybe these men actually were deceived and really thought that it was a commandment of God. And maybe it was. Like I said, I'm not coming to any definitive conclusions, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence that Joseph Smith practiced it in the way that he actually had these conjugal relationships with his multiple wives, only with one, Emma. And we do believe all throughout Scripture, all throughout God's doctrine, that marriage is between a man and a woman, one-on-one. It is a one-on-one thing. So I'm just going to stick with that. We even have what's called the proclamation to the family. The family proclamation to the world is that actual name of it. And in that it says the same thing. That marriage is between a man and a woman. It doesn't say, but there's these exceptions where like a man can have like a whole bunch of wives and it's okay. Like it doesn't say that in there. It's pretty clear. So anyway, point number 2, where did it start? If it wasn't with Joseph, where did it start? I'm going to just kind of leave that one out there. You can do your own research. I kind of have some opinions on that. Like I already said, I kind of can see like, oh, it makes sense that like, even if it's just correlation, they happen to be proselyting to these people that are practicing polygamy. So is it very possible, likely, obvious maybe that it kind of like seeped into the church from that? Who knows? But anyways, it didn't start with us. Didn't start with the Mormons. There was already polygamy in America. So don't say that either. But anyways, back to, so point number 3 would be, I guess I'm saying item before. Item number 3. Item number 3. If Joseph Smith was a prophet of God and his successor Brigham Young was also a prophet of God, and one of them taught against polygamy and one of them lived it, then where does that leave us? And then like, are all of our prophets like, untrustworthy, and did they all lose credibility? And like, what do we make of that? Personally, I do believe that Brigham Young was a prophet. I do believe that he was Joseph's successor. He did a lot of really good things for the church. He helped lead us to this gorgeous place that we call Utah, that I live in and love. A lot of my ancestors followed him, and this is where we are. So I don't think that we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, he wasn't a prophet, he didn't have revelation. Brigham Young, he's my great grandfather, I think 5. Great grandfather. And he said a lot of really crazy things. And I know that he said a lot of really crazy things because I've read them. He also said a lot of really good things. He had a ton of wisdom. He was a great businessman, way better at business than Joseph Smith, unfortunately, who died in a ton of debt. I struggle with a lot of the same things. So there are people that are just really good at the stuff and people that aren't. And there's people that are really good at other things and people that aren't. Like, we all come to earth with our strengths and abilities and our weaknesses. And as those, my phone overheated, so I don't remember exactly what I was saying. I'm going to go back and watch a little bit more, see if I can figure out where I was, and I'll be back. I remembered where I was. Okay, so basically these 2 men were prophets is what I was trying to say. These 2 men were prophets, even though they said and did some very different, like even contradictory things sometimes. So we have other prophets, and this church has had several. Okay. And one thing that I think we should remember that might be really hard, especially for members of the church, is that prophets are not perfect. They are human men. And I say men because we haven't had a female prophet. We have men serving as prophets. So I can say he, they, men. They're human and they are not infallible. They're very fallible. Okay. Even Joseph Smith, although I do think he was maybe one of the most perfect people that have lived, one of the most perfect, but not the most perfect, because that would be Jesus. He's the only perfect person that has ever lived on this earth and that will ever live on this earth. So if you think you're perfect, I hate to break it to you, but you're not. So we all make mistakes. We all have weaknesses and imperfections and sins and tons of things going wrong, because we're all here in this fallen world and we all mess up. And I do a ton, plenty. You don't need to point it out to me because I already know, but I'm not going to try to hide the fact that I am very imperfect. And so it isn't hard for me to say that all the prophets and presidents of the church are also not perfect and they make plenty of mistakes, plenty. So it's not my place to go and, point those things out to everyone, but they exist and they are there. And so it isn't hard for me to say, well, he was a prophet, but then I don't really like that thing that he did, because nobody ever said he was perfect. Okay. So let's just move that aside. Okay. So that brings me to item number 4. So 1, I don't believe that Joseph Smith actually practiced polygamy and slept with his multiple wives. 2, then who did start it, which I'm going to leave kind of open. 3, if Joseph Smith didn't start and didn't practice polygamy, then what does that say about prophets? And like, can we trust prophets? Because holy cow, they mess up. Well, you know what? I do think that they mess up. And I'm not saying how they mess up, and I'm not really going to make any like definitive arguments or decisions on that either. Just that I have room in my intellect for not just the possibility, but the probability that if we've had several prophets over the course of 200 years and we already know that they're not perfect, that some mistakes are made. Okay, so make what you want of that. But for me, there were some mistakes made and I can accept that. But 4, why on earth do I still align myself with this church with all of these things? We've got one prophet that preaches against polygamy. The second one, very next one after that, has, now I forgot how many. I should know this. I'm a descendant. 50 something wives. 56? 50. I should know that. Several wives. Let's just leave it at that. Oh, it couldn't have been 50 because I thought he only had like 60 something children. Guys. Anyway, the number doesn't matter. We know he was a polygamist and had a lot of wives. So Brigham Young had, evidence, there's that word again, that he definitely practiced polygamy. However, there doesn't seem to be any on Joseph Smith. So how can I ascribe to this church and its doctrines and its teachings when we have this like kind of juxtaposition going on? Well, it's easy. I've looked at a lot of things, a lot of which has been very disheartening to me, very difficult, hard to reconcile, and I've definitely had my journey. But in the end, I've concluded that my life is way infinitely better with the church in it than without. And I've looked at what happens when people do get disgruntled, when they lose faith in the church, when they feel let down, they feel like the church hasn't been honest with them, they feel like they've been lied to their whole lives, they just basically are disillusioned and they leave the church. And I have not yet, and this is probably bold to say this, but I literally have not yet seen a situation that has actually gotten better after somebody left the church. Make of that whatever you want, but I have not seen it yet. I'm not saying that everybody that leaves the church goes to hell. I didn't say that. I'm not saying that everybody that leaves the church has a horrible life and that everything falls apart. I didn't say that either. I just have not yet seen a single person, family, whoever, that's left the church and has truly been better off for it. And again, you don't have to agree with me. That's just what I've seen and witnessed and experienced. I also have noticed, for what it's worth, that I feel like members of the church have a lot of light, a lot of spiritual light. And as somebody who really values that, that's important to me. I want to have a lot of spiritual light in my life. And I have found that there's a lot more light and brightness in my life when I turn to my Savior, Jesus Christ, when I read the scriptures, including the Book of Mormon, which we wouldn't have without this church, without Joseph Smith. It's very interconnected. So, and actually like you can't have one without the other. So, I mean, you could. I do have a friend that left the church that reads the Book of Mormon still. I'm not saying that you can't leave the church and not still read the Book of Mormon, but what I'm saying is you wouldn't have the Book of Mormon without the church, and you wouldn't have the church without the Book of Mormon, and it's a chicken and egg thing and whatever else. But guys, this video is turning out really weird. I didn't mean for it to be so rambly. But my point is that my life is infinitely better with the church in it than without. And I'm a single mom of 3 kids. I have thought about this several times. What happens to my 3 kids? How do I raise them without the church? For me, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal if I walked away from the church. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a big deal, but I'm saying maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. I'm one person, maybe I decide I can't, reconcile all this stuff. It's too big, it's too much, it's overwhelming, and I'm just going to stop going to church. But I can't do that to my kids. What would that do to my kids? I grew up in the church. I feel like my life is greatly influenced and impacted by the gospel of Jesus Christ in this church, in this organization, in this whatever you want to call it. Like, there's a lot of hate right now on the church, but it has brought a lot of good into my life. Mostly good things. And so, yeah, there's some negative. Yeah, there's some history. Yeah, there's some questions, a lot actually. And it's very hot in here, so my phone might overheat again, so I should probably keep this short. But basically, my life is so much better. I just left church, you guys, and I was like beaming. I was saying goodbye to all my friends. I felt so surrounded. I love the feeling of church. I love it. I love to go every Sunday. I actually get excited. It's kind of nerdy. I'm a 41-year-old mom, and I actually get excited to go to church, but it's because I have had some dark times in my life, and I feel like I'm in a very good place right now, and I really appreciate the church for everything that it gives me and my children. And so, they have friends, they meet people, it's a community, it's a fellowship. I love that. I can't even imagine not having that in my life. And yes, there's other things, and you can find replacements, and hopefully you do. If you have made that choice, hopefully you find something, because I think it could be very lonely and very isolating, especially if you spend a lifetime in this church, to give that up. But for me, that is not the decision that I've come to. I'm here to stay. I love the church. I love the Book of Mormon. I love the doctrines that we have, that families can be together forever, that we're children of God, that He created us in His image and sent us here to earth to gain experience and to learn to be like Him so that we can return to Him someday. Let's go back to the basics. Those are the simple, fundamental, foundational truths of the gospel. Let's not get into all of the murky stuff. I mean, get into it if you want to, but I'm saying I'm not going to because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. And a lot of it's like confusing. And I've already mentioned this, but like disheartening. It could really shake a person when they encounter some of this. And sometimes, even if they have a really strong testimony, sometimes they just don't have what it takes to absorb all of that. Like, what do you do with it? So I, again, have a lot of compassion. If you are a member or have looked into the church and aren't really sure about all this stuff either, that could be a really hard place to be. But I would like to extend an invitation to give it another chance. Suspend your disbelief. I would invite you to wait a little while and not be so quick to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Not to say, I don't like this and this and this, and so the whole thing gone. Can't be true. But maybe, like, are there good things in the church? A lot. Yeah, a lot. Are there good people in the church? A ton. Millions, actually. Like, millions worldwide. Are there some doctrines that I like? Yeah, I want to keep all of those. Are there some lifestyle things that I like? Yeah, definitely. No alcohol, no sleeping around, no coffee, no tea, no tobacco. Like, those are good things. Don't argue with me that those are not good things. For a long time, they were saying, so we've got this thing called the word of wisdom. Okay, so if you've heard like Mormons don't drink coffee, they don't drink alcohol, it's true. We have this word of wisdom what teaches like basic things like, we don't drink alcohol and we don't use tobacco and things like that for our health, and just basically it's just part of our lifestyle. And if we want to be full active members, and especially if we want to go inside our temples, then we have to be able to answer to those requirements. And so I don't drink alcohol or any of those things that I just, mentioned, because they're important to me. But I feel like that's a cleaner way to live. I just do. And I feel like it's healthier. And science is starting to catch up. It took a really long time because these things, like I've said, our church is like over 200 years old. So this has been around for a while. And for a long time, tobacco was glorified. Everyone should smoke and it's going to make you skinny. It's going to make you gorgeous, all these things. But now, tobacco actually causes cancer and it's dangerous and it's addictive and you should stay away from tobacco. So especially nicotine, holy cow. So anyways, science is taking a while to catch up, but it is catching up. And then recently I saw something super exciting. I was looking at a magazine, and basically the last few years were really confusing to me because we've always been taught not to drink alcohol, and they were starting to say a small amount of alcohol is actually really good for you and you should have wine with dinner, and wine has all these benefits and antioxidants. And I was like, well, hey, what about the word of wisdom and how does that fit in? Then I saw this article in a magazine that said no amount of alcohol is considered safe now. No amount. Zero. Okay, guys? It didn't say in moderation. It didn't say wine with dinner. It didn't mention that in the article. It even said, we've been wrong. We've been telling you guys that a little wine with dinner is okay, but actually it's really not. It's really not a good idea. You can get as many antioxidants from grape juice as you can from wine. So just don't do it, okay? So anyway, I'm not telling you what to do, but if it were me, I've chosen not to drink my whole life, and I've been blessed for it. I really honestly think I have been blessed for that. I am so grateful for the life choices that I've made, that some of them have been really difficult, unpopular, uncomfortable at times. Did I mention unpopular? We get mocked for a lot of stuff. We are definitely a rare and peculiar people, and I'm okay. I'm willing to be a target of that. So that is why I want to be open on YouTube and share that, yes, I am Mary and I'm a Mormon. And you can hate me for saying Mormon, but it's just the most recognizable thing. And it's a lot shorter than saying I'm Mary and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, even though that's what it means. So that's my little intro video on that. Again, probably an intro and also a conclusion. Not really conclusion, but you know what I mean? I'm not going to have this be a series. So whatever you want to call it, that's just my address. Mary's address on the church, but whatever. I just want you to know where I'm coming from and what some of my beliefs are, and again, how I choose to stay after encountering a lot of ugly history and accusations and other things. That here's one more side thing I want to talk about. The church recently uploaded these gospel topic essays to our scriptures, to our, gospel library, and to our website. And it addresses a lot of these things. Did Joseph Smith use a seer stone? Did he have multiple wives? Is this true? And I don't even want to go there because I'm not a historian, and there are a lot of people that are historians, but I think those can be really confusing for people. I don't actually think they're the most faith promoting. So even though they are by the church, I just don't think it has to stop there. If you hear some of these things, I just personally wouldn't say, just go read the essays and whatever the essays say, that's final, that's everything. Because again, just like prophets aren't perfect, sorry, but historians aren't perfect. Yeah, I just said that actually. I just said that. And I'm going to own it. Historians are not perfect. They might be wrong on some of these things. Possibly. Yep. So maybe do a little bit more research than that, or even you could do the simplest thing and just kind of stay away from it. And I know that probably sounds really head in the sand and dismissive, and there's another word that I was thinking of. It's not. And here's why. I could go and look up every horrible thing that's happening in the world right now. I could look up all of the tragedies in every single country, and that would be super depressing. I could spend all my time doing that. But I'm a mom and I want my life to be positive and happy. And yes, those things happen. It's really sad. I acknowledge them when I hear about them, but I'm not out there digging them all up and seeking out articles on the most horrific things that have ever happened to humanity, because that would be super depressing and I would not like my life if I did that. I don't want to go digging up all the horrible things that I can on the church and what are the worst things that have ever happened in the church, and what is this, and this obscure thing that was said, oh my gosh, then the church can't possibly be true. I don't feel like that's helpful, and I'm probably not going to get it right, because you know what, with 200 years history, even when we find facts, we don't always have the context. We didn't live at that time. We still may be getting some things wrong. Again, we may be getting this wrong on Joseph Smith. Maybe he did practice polygamy. If you have any evidence, bring it. But we don't have any children yet. We don't have any evidence of that. There's all kinds of arguments about birth control and abortion and all that kind of stuff. But you guys, not in 1840s or whatever. But the point is, I choose to focus on the basics. And again, those core doctrines that we're children of God. We have an omnipotent creator, a God of the universe that actually cares about us. He cares about you and what you're doing today and how you're feeling. And ultimately he just wants us all to come back to him. So I feel like I am probably going to do better in my life if I stay in the church. And I feel like it's probably going to help me come closer to Jesus Christ and closer to my Heavenly Father if I stay in the church. And I feel happier when I stay in the church. And I think that I have more light when I stay in the church. So that's, for whatever it's worth, that's how I feel about all of this. And I'm just grateful. I'm just so grateful that I get to be a member of this and a part of it. And I don't want to make a lot of videos on this, like I said. I'm just really not interested in that, and that's not the point of this channel. But I'm happy to answer questions. So please, like, leave me all of your questions about the church, about faith, about history, about, not history, church history, but like about, you know, me and my beliefs. Like, why have I made the decisions that I made? Like, all the questions. I'm happy to try to answer as many as I can. And if I don't have answers for you, I'm happy to like maybe point you to somebody that could help give you answers. I do believe that the Book of Mormon is true. I do. And I feel better when I read it. And I feel like there are a lot of truths in there that I rely on in like my daily life, like a lot of lessons and principles and values and things that are taught in the Book of Mormon that I am so grateful for, that I can't imagine like my life without. So I'm starting to melt again, which means that my battery is probably gonna die. My hair is like starting to like get curly because I'm like starting to sweat in here. Gross, huh? Anyway, that is all I have for you. Happy Sunday. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for watching my channel. Thanks for subscribing and liking videos and commenting. It really helps a lot. So I'm just gonna leave this one out there, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. I'm just trying to find a good way to set this up, and I think my best bet is to just probably kind of hold it here. Step number one, not step number one. It's not a step. Item number one, prophets. So I can say he, they, men. I don't even remember what I said now. As many accents.